Summit location.
All right, I see George is not here yet, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll do introduction of the board and the guests, and then I'll start with you.
Dave Kissner, board treasurer.
Sue May, board member.
Ed Van Halen, board member.
David board.
Amanda George staff.
Hetty Rowland board. Third over to the Joe.
Dan Hoyt, staff.
Georgie McNamara, staff.
Holcomb staff.
Tracy Moss, staff. Jillian Brown, staff.
Sharon Maloney Navarro staff.
Charlotte Hicks.
Robin Meyer staff. Go online.
Jillian Rainingbird board.
Lindy Willoughby staff. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Marvin Blake staff.
I don't know. Did you hear me? Lindy Willoughby staff.
Melinda Barnett staff.
Roger Montero, staff.
Kelly Logan, job one.
Your turn, Lauren. Oh, there's George.
Lauren Hall, Southeast. Sorry about that, folks. I couldn't unmute myself.
And we see George just trying to get on there. We'll go ahead and we start off with our properties quarterly report. Marvin.
Evening, everyone. We'll start with a quarterly update, 8511. Since the after our remodel downstairs, we had some light switches that were, needless to say, a pain. They worked on motion, so when you walked in and doing your job, then 5 minutes later you would have to wave at the wall to turn your lights back on. So we went through to try to find out if we just modify the switches some way, but that didn't work. We had to replace the switches, but we got all those taken care of now. They can manually operate their switches and dim them the way that they're supposed to be. We found that the switches that were installed were 6 months after they were installed, they become obsolete. So we went and resourced new switches, got that taken care of. I'm going to call, I know that this update is kind of in the past, but I kind of like to update you all on what future plans here in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to have a plumber come out and let's see, he's going to install the drumming pipe, the drain pipes from the new roof drain that is not installed because when the new roof was put on this building, the weather and stuff would not let us put that new drain system in. There's a coordination between the plumber and the roofer and all of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that cat by the tail and get the plumber's work all done so the roofer can just come in and connect it. We really need to get that drain put in. It handles a large amount of water that tends to pool on the roof. That's here at 8511. 8508, pretty well general maintenance as needed. On both of these buildings, we just had the sprinklers just repaired for over the winter, and they're ready to be switched on whenever we get into a dry season. Hopefully that'll be for a while. But at 8508, just general maintenance as needed. At DOT, had Pro Circuit come out and wire a new lift in the shop bay. They got a new lift in, and we always like to have the electricians come in and make sure that our power load is able to handle all that equipment. So they got all that wired in, and it's working great. And we're our little friends, not my friends, but that's a good way to term them, cut into the back fence and installed some more converters, and they're just hacking through that fence like it's nothing. So we had all the fence repaired and did a little bit more reinforcing in some areas, and we're looking into getting some other, we've installed a squeal box or an alarm that's supposed to make it more irritating for them, but they won't let us do guard dogs or anything down there. So we're pretty well stuck with what we've got, and we're just trying to make it as less attractive as possible, I guess. That's how we can state it. But they've found their way back in. to the back of the fence again and got us for some more converters. And then we're still waiting on the power boxes to put into that facility. They're still in the queue being built from the manufacturer. And I'm still 2 months out on that. The Blue Springs office, we just had a new roof and gutters put on that, which is great. We had it inspected a couple of times last year and then again this year, and the roof had seen better days, and the roof vent on the top was pretty well, in some spots, non-existent. So we've got all that taken care of and buttoned up, and they did a really good job on it, but everything's straight and tight. So that's the way I like to see it. So they've got a good 25 year roof off of that. Rainbow 2, it says general maintenance is needed, but actually they had some rodent problems that got in and chewed some wires up. Seems to be the thing that's happening nowadays with all the squirrels and everything that we're dealing with. So they've called Gunter out and they're doing a sweep on rodents, and hopefully we can clear that problem up and repair the chewed wires. It didn't really say that it had done any, like stopped a unit or anything. It's just they noticed where they had been in there chewing around on them. So we want to make sure that that's safe and good to go, and get rid of the dang mice. If it's not mice, it's squirrels this year, folks. Job 1 Independence had the sprinkler head replaced in the foyer. That's after a cold snap, and at that time we've had a new floor heater installed into that foyer. There was I can't remember. We had a HVAC unit that was supposed not working, and we had just had maintenance done on it like 2 months prior. But what we found was a mud dauber's nest in the contactors. The high voltage switch that actually connects to make the system run, and replacing some fuses, and that took care of it. But the mud daubers got into it and made a mess out of it. So we got that taken care of, and did some minor repairs on the heaters on the dock. I did some personal roof repairs out there, and just general maintenance as needed as it's called in. Job 1 Grandview, general maintenance. We're done with our outside lighting for security purposes, but we've had a little ramp that comes off of the blue building. That's kind of the old warehousing building, and we're in the need of replacing that. Some of that ramp has fallen down and broken, so we've sealed it off and we're going to replace that. We're dropping down to Southeast Enterprises. Heating unit was checked after complaints of not heating. I do believe they found some capacitor and contactor that were in bad, and that was replaced and taken care of. Changed out the electrical outlet box to waterproof. Threaded into Zotis. I'm not sure what that shortcut means. We had the door company out to replace the threshold in the front entryway, the carpeting in the front. The steel exterior door that's talked about in the frame in the truck bay area, that's been replaced. And we're looking to replace the windows in the garage door on the ground level dock door. And that should take care of that stuff. The door installation went really well. Back there, it looks really good. And this summer, I'll get a coat of paint on it and keep it from rusting up. It's primed, but I need to paint it. At Blue Valley, they put a new light over the entrance, the front entrance. Timcon was out for a sewer line backup. I'm sure they just pushed it on through. And I didn't really get any follow-up that they had found anything but some debris. Since then, we've had a new rooftop unit that coils have leaked, and it's a 2005 unit. So we're going to go ahead and replace that out with the new unit over the cafe. It's in town. They're just getting the crane and stuff lined up so that we can drop that onto the roof. Well, we won't drop it, I promise. But anyway, we've got all that lined up. Mr. Hogan is aware of that. And so a new issue was brought up today. I'm going to throw in here the answer back. They've called for ant remediation, but I need to get down there, and I think we're going to need to replace some walls in his office. it's just the insects back there and the moisture. We just started, I'm gonna have to do it again. We did it probably 12 years ago or 15 years ago. We just need to, I may have that date wrong, but we just need to do it again. So I'll be heading down to see Mr. Hogan this week to see what we can do in his office. So the new rooftop's on its way. DPI Independence, have here the door issue for the interior automatic door was Greg's lot was called out to reprogram it. And I guess they got all that taken care of. And the new closure was ordered for the team room door. And I'll follow up to make sure that that got installed. We have found the parts, but we're seeking the parts to get the parts for the end of the handrail. We finally got all that worked out, and with communications, it's an Acrovin handrail, and we're just trying to keep it with the same materials. They work really well. And we're getting ready to dive in on that drilling of some reconnaissance holes, as I call them, to see what voids may be underneath that floor. And then we have a couple of companies lined up for whatever we find to give us estimates on getting rid of the ridges and the separations in the foundation of that building. And that's Independence. DPI KC, we had another power outage down there. I don't know where the dirty power is at down there, but we have these power outages and it sets the elevator to the lower level and turns it off. And then we have to call for service to get it reset. So we've been working diligently on trying to find out where the power failure is coming from, and we've not yet got a definitive answer as to where that's causing. But it affects several buildings around there, and ours just happened to be one of them. And when the power comes back on, the only thing that does not reinstate itself is the elevator. And we've been meeting with a lot of folks down there to work on this big concrete project there that affects Blue Valley and DPI downtown. And we're finally getting some good responses back. And we've got one side of the coin saying that we need engineers, and we got another side saying we don't. And so I'm just trying to figure out from the city if we got to have engineers or just what our next move is to get this in. But I'm getting people lined up to at least throw their hat in the ring for the bids. And that's been really tough to do nowadays. So it's been a lot of work, but I've not made any promises to anybody. So I'm just hope that they stay to their word. And again, that affects Blue Valley and DPI KC. General maintenance as needed at DPI, but this is really where I'm putting a lot of my focus is to get this project done this year. It just affects a lot of our building and the future. The concrete is literally dusting away. So we need to correct that. Ability KC, concrete work on their west entryway to their dock doors, the drainage grates from the city approach fell into about a 2.5 foot crater, about 30 feet long, which means they couldn't use their dock. So I called McConnell and Associates. They came out, they put barricades over it. They went in there and they filled it all in and did it the right way. And they've been using that now, and we're set up for some heavy loads on that concrete now. So I don't think that's going to be, the rest of the parking lot will go away and that concrete will still be standing. I really think that they did us a good job, and it was a big safety hazard. I was just worried about someone, the homeless that walks around there all the time, falling into the dang thing and we not knowing about it. So it became an emergency real quick, and we took care of it, and had a good vendor step in and help us out. So that's all taken care of. We had some warranty work done on the roof last 2 weeks. Let's see, I've been gone a week. So it's been a week ago Friday, and I have not heard anything back on those roof leaks on Ability KC. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm going to mosey my way down there tomorrow, and I'm going to stop in and see if they got it fixed or not. It's just that plain and simple, because it's all under warranty. That's Ability. Let's see. And Nolan Manor, we're Woo, we're taking bids on Nolan Manor and White Oaks Concrete. And it's been exciting, needless to say. We're still waiting on more bids. They're coming in really high and heavy. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to bow away from a lot of it in the future. We're going to need to correct the problems, starting to be a safety concern. And so we're working and we keep hearing rumors about concrete prices are lowering and stuff, but I've not seen it on the bid sheets myself. So we're still diligently working on that. And thanks to Miss Robin, we've developed a long-term ongoing project list at the bottom. And we'll go over that real quick. The long-term BVI DPI was the concrete project that I'm speaking of. Yeah, I don't want to see it long-term. I want it this year. And it's just a large project. It has to do with a lot of sidewalks, curbs, burying of drains, city drainage, parking, ramps, ADA. I mean, it covers the whole gamut. And so that's why I have a lot of people involved with this. I'm going to do it right the first time. And so that's very important. But that's exactly where we're at now on that long-term project. The Blue Springs office, that we're still working on if we're going to put a fence up at Blue Springs office, or we're going to take the old one down, and we'll discuss that more as we approach Tom's office tomorrow. So we can get that. Well, either way we go, it's going to improve around there. The fence that's there, the gates are spread apart, and it's just in really bad shape. Southeast lighting phase 1 is complete, and I've begged for numbers on phase 2, which covers docks, work, training areas, and offices. And that'll be phase 2. And we're waiting to get all that put in so that we can go ahead and hopefully move on phase 2. I'm excited about getting in phase 3, which would do everything else that's not covered in 1 and 2. I've touched on the DOT power supply panels. They're still waiting to be built. They're in the queue, though. They are in line to be built, but they're not there yet. And I did already cover the Independence Foundation. We're drilling holes in that thing to see if there's any big voids under it. We're seeing cracking go from outside foundation all the way through the building to the other side. And especially with the drought we had and everything, I did the old tape trick across them, and 2 of them broke the tape. So there's still movement in there. So we'll need to hopefully get these holes drilled. And if we can, we'll stick a camera if we find a void, but that's another one of our missions, is to get that floor leveled out. And we're going to need to do some grinding and sanding and all that good stuff. But to get it flat, that's probably what we're going to end up doing. We've had a lot of people look at it over the years, and it's just, we've taken up tile, we've V-cut the cracks, we've refilled, we've injected, we've done a myriad of things onto that floor. And now we're down to our last bit. And that seems to be the end of the list. Do I have any questions?
Sounds like you've been busy. Detailed.
Well, there's a lot in there, and it just happens every day, but that's been going on for a long time. So that's good stuff. As long as we keep making progress and taking care of stuff, and I feel more positive than ever before that we have a system in place where I can get a lot of this stuff done. And not necessarily budgeted items. And it's just a lot harder in this environment that we're working in. But I'm pumped about getting this stuff finished and out of here and moving on.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Margaret.
welcome. Thanks. You're welcome.
And did you all get a chance to see your email this afternoon about job on the paper? We have a contract on the on the Grandview office. And we have a signing date set for like a signing ceremony to sign up the deed of the regular, the one in Newman.
Okay, we'll move on to number 5. service quarterly. You know what I mean?
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And we're gonna hear from Joyce first.
Now,
Okay, on.
Yep. So this quarter, you received long written reports that I'm sure you all enjoyed. Good.
there were no pictures in mine. It was all outcomes.
So we heard you when you gave feedback about having data read to you. So now you can read it yourself.
Enjoy that.
Sorry, talking and getting my screen shared. Interesting.
We're looking for a PowerPoint is what we're doing.
I found it, and then I don't see it on my screen. Okay, that's weird. And then I can pull this up, you see the keep sharing. One time,
It said the green line. Oh, there was no line on that page. Look at the very front page, at the bottom. I know it's real small.
Tracy.
I know it's real small. Well, I couldn't see. So, sorry, the whole point for me was, I couldn't tell which one was the target and which one was. I know, it's cheap, so it was kind of a moot point. It's kind of a moot point anyway. To be honest, in going around to the different agencies, we have a lot of work to do with different agencies and different outcomes. So we have some that are really using their outcomes to have good quality. Is it the circle? Is that the outcome or is that the target? The circle is the target. And the line is the achieved. The line.
We won't see the line, it's bar graph.
The bar graph, yep, the bar. And then next quarter, that is when the line shows up. Kristen made all this great stuff for me. And I'm afraid to take things off because I don't know how to put them back on. So I was really afraid of that. But, okay, sorry. Yeah, and that'll just kind of tell you where they are. So I think our biggest issue with our outcomes reporting is that the agencies write those months in advance before developing the program that they're going to have us fund. And so some are really on it, they know what they want to do, and then others are, they're the outcomes that they've just been working on anyway. And so it doesn't really seem to tie in directly with the service that's that we're paying for. So we're going around, Amy and I, she's the other agency relations specialist that I hired. And we're going around, we've made notes on each of the outcomes that we want to focus on. Some of them are not working on the effectiveness of their program, or at least not demonstrating that through an outcome. So we want to see that the programs are actually benefiting the folks. I like the whole idea of creating. There was something on some of them, it's still not quite understanding how to write the target, because it's just like, well, how do you know? And they did this. Who? Yep, and I'm not sure, because sometimes the data is exactly what the target was for every. I can't. And yeah, and so I think it's because we're having them write them when they're doing the funding application, and we're not doing anything after that. Last year we had them and we made notes about the ones that we just didn't have the time at the beginning of the year to really go and say let's work on some of these, and some are just struggling. Like there are certain programs that just really struggle to write targets, and to understand that we need a target so that we can see how you're doing on the outcome. So it seems like the agencies that are for credited, They just understand it's so much easier for them. And some of the other programs just, they don't have that accreditation. They've never had to do, you know, quality improvement with outcomes. So they struggle. Somebody was way off. So here's the other thing is that some of them are way off because they're working on it throughout the year. So for Transition Academy, let's say, they have 100 people that they're going to touch base with, they're gonna get the service. Well, right now, I think like 15 maybe have gotten the service. So by the end of the year, they'll hit their target. So it's apples and oranges on some of the targets, because sometimes they're meeting them quarterly. Well, some of them are lucky. And some of them are lucky and some of them are not lucky.
And we make sure we're speaking up for the recording.
So, okay. It just seems like some of them are pretty high.
Is it realistic?
Right.
What I hear you asking, yeah.
Is it even achievable? Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of goes into our funding review process that we've been doing for years and years the same way. We have the application process that people continue to fill out year after year. And so I think we're revamping that. We're looking at taking the process that Clay County is using for people to submit their grant proposal, just a cleaner, more efficient approach to getting the information. The one area that I would like for us to work on is the outcomes and figuring out with Amanda's support, how to maybe write some specific outcomes that we want them to work on, and just have some specific targets that have to do with our funding and our I just lost the word. Priorities, thank you. Our funding priorities. So
So that would be working with you all to really decide what is it we want to fund. And then making that really clear in the application. And so they would select, oh, we want to work on employment in the community, or we want to work on transition service. We'd have outcomes around that. And then we would thoughtfully consider what targets we want also to fund and give them a choice. I've seen the Health Forward Foundation move to that approach because they had to hire 2 or 3 people to work on evaluation and outcomes with all of their funded agencies, because it's just so hard for some social service agencies to get that concept. So what they did is like, let's just simplify this. This is what we want. This is our mission. You can. So.
well, it was really great the work that we did with Tammy between the strategic plan that you did, but then also her asking our staff what things are needed for the folks that they support. And so we were able to like comb through that data and find those priorities that would be really good focuses for this next year around transportation, transition, and some of the things that are lacking. So those are some key things. So that, I think, moving on. Oh, and then so we went out and we just met with all the agencies in January. That was our big thing, just to get around and see everybody. And then went again in April and finished. So it was fun to go out and see everybody. We have 18 agencies now, so yeah, it's more than I think we've had ever.
That's good.
So yeah. And then as far as that transformation, change in the grant process, we would like to include a letter of intent for agencies that are interested in doing something different or unique. We have a debate on whether everyone writes the letter of intent and what they plan to write. So that's been part of our discussion is, do we have every agency that plans to apply write a letter to us so that we know what they're looking at? and there was some good argument to do that. And then another piece that we'd really like to do is add some interviewing and some a time where each agency could propose or present their proposal to us, and we could ask questions because of the committee. We're left with a lot of unanswered questions, and then we're trying to get them after the fact and don't always get full answers. So if we could do that face to face would be ideal. But then we started calculating how much time that would take, and that might take a bit. So that would be kind of a commitment for all of us who's on that committee. Stories, I like stories. So this t-shirt, I don't know if you can see, but Tiffany is someone at Job One, and she's been at the shelter workshop. She's been at the shelter workshop. She started doing their community-based service where they just go out and do fun things. And she's really coming out of her shell, and she was sitting there on a park bench and said, actually, I am brave. And so they had her write that out and put it on a shirt. So they're selling those now, and they now their t-shirt business. Yeah, there was that, or there was the one that the motorcycle that the guy drew out, and that was cool too, but I like this one. But just the growth, oh, you're fine. The growth that they're seeing from people just by getting out and getting to know them through the community program's been really fun to see. So at least on at Parks and Rec, we just found out that they got their trikes and they've gotten them out there. There's a press release saying, come to Lee Summit and ride trikes. So that's great. I know Melinda was excited about that. She's right online. And then we in March took our People First group to the Disability Legislative Day and met with their legislators. And you can see Dan's there and Amy, and I think I'm behind the camera. So they had a great time getting braver and braver talking to people. But Neil, who you can see, he's the second from the right. He that day said they don't want to talk to me. They don't want to know what I have to say. It was just interesting. He said I'm a Black man with a disability, and they don't care about what I have to say. And so it was really cool. We went into Jerome Barnes' office, and they had like just a face-to-face. It was really, really sweet, him and Neil. And then he said, when you guys get back in town, he said, I'm always on Fridays, I'm always back in town. Call and let's go to breakfast together. And so they met up for breakfast, and there's Neil. And so for the guy who thought nobody cared what he had to say, it was pretty cool to see somebody like him in that position and really wanting to hear what he had to say. It was really sweet. Neil's really grown a lot just in the last year and a half that, kind of come out of the shell in that group. So.
Right.
And then the last thing is that Amy, who is the lady that's working on our advocacy stuff, is just helping us with some awareness stuff, making sure we always did things around here about disability awareness, but she's just intentionally making sure we don't forget things, don't miss things. And so she's trying to keep up with that. So this was Down syndrome awareness, World Down Syndrome Awareness Day. So we were wearing mismatched socks because of the 21st chromosome, and she taught us all what that meant. And Tom thought it was really cool, but I don't remember now. But it was really fun to do that, and then to have her kind of explain to staff why we celebrate the way we celebrate. So there's a lot of great things going on. Any questions?
Hey, community outreach, Melinda.
Yes, yeah, thank you. So tonight I would like to talk about the two major functions of the Community Outreach Department. The first is to connect people with resources in the community. And so we do that through a few different ways. We do that with referrals, getting referrals from the Kansas City Regional Office for people that don't have Medicaid. And so last quarter we got 28 new referrals, and Juanita Robertson, our community outreach specialist, was able to connect with 22 of them, meaning that we were able then to set up supports for them. And then we also receive calls from anybody in the community that is requesting resource information. And so we processed 54 of those calls. And then we also receive requests from support coordination for resource information. And so we received 26 of those requests. I was especially excited to see the different types of requests that were received. And one of the big requests that was received was for recreational activities information. Which I was excited to see about that, because it's not just requesting information about disability services or disability related services. We received 19 requests for our community resources coordinator, Sam Stepp, and of those 19 requests, half of those were for recreational activities information. It included information about volunteer opportunities with veterans and senior adults, activities related to history, sports activities like bowling and swimming, outdoor activities like exploring parks and going fishing, and then also being connected with social groups. And so, like I said, I was really excited to see that type of request, because like I said, it's looking beyond just disability related services. And then because of that, we were able to get 188 new referrals for community resources. That is around 90 more than the fourth quarter of 2022. And a lot of those were related to information about recreational activities. And so if you can go. So then the other big function of our department is to get out in the community and represent UTAS at different events and do presentations. We do that so we can get obviously a lot of wonderful information out about what UTAS does. And then also try to help build partnerships and fill gaps in services. And so I just wanted to talk about 3 specifically that we represented ETAS at. The first is our ProX career event. So the ProX program is a program for high school students ages 14 through 19 to work with us from June to July for 5 weeks to work on either a project or have direct work experience. And so Juanita Robertson, our community outreach specialist, is going to be working with 3 high school students. And then Dan actually is going to be working with 1 as well. And so Juanita is going to be exploring the issue of connecting with the Hispanic population more, or doing more community outreach for the Hispanic population. So that's, I think, going to be a great project to work on. And then we also represented ETAS at the Life University event. Jennifer Seidel, our benefit specialist, represented ETAS at that. So that it was through the Raytown School District. So she presented first about our supports and services. She did a small presentation about that. And then she met with current students and then recent graduates of Raytown High School and their parents and answered questions. She also said that she connected with 2 families that she had helped through the Medicaid application process. So she thought that it was really great to be able to connect with them and actually meet them in person. And then the third event that we represented ETAS at is the Special Olympics Resource and Job Fair. Jasmine McCrary, our community health resource specialist, had represented ETAS at that. And so that was hosted by Special Olympics. They hosted this resource fair that was at the same time as their area basketball tournament. And so I think it worked out really nicely. There were around 50 athletes with intellectual disabilities and their families that attended. And so Jasmine was able to speak with quite a few families. And then the other thing that I didn't put up here that we did this quarter or last quarter was Juanita and I had done a presentation for the Jackson County Systems of Care. There weren't any pictures because it was a virtual presentation, but I wanted to mention it because they asked us to do this presentation just to talk about ETOS supports and services as a part of Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. And it was a great presentation and a great connection. The Jackson County Systems of Care is a group of several different organizations that support people of all types of different populations. And so Jasmine McCrary now is representing COD and ETOS through this committee. So there's monthly meetings and there are speakers at the monthly meetings, and they provide lots of resource information, and they actually pay for or fund different things. And so like just recently we were able to access some gas cards actually for a family that Sam Step supports. So so that was, I think, a great connection as well. And so that is it. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
This is Melinda. Thank you, Melinda.
Thank you.
All right, Roger, you're up next.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and it's good to see you all. Transportation for the first quarter of 2023 was a bit challenging for us. We were dealing with staffing shortages, and so we were trying to overcome that. And thank God we eventually did, but it was quite challenging. The department highlights are that we completed 22,674 one-way trips during this first quarter. That is up actually 2.3% from last quarter, and it's actually up 11.4% from this same time last year. And this is a continuing theme. We continue to see these increases. They're small, but they're steady. And so we're hoping to again double, or not double, but have another 12% increase, or close to 12% by the end of this year. Our performance objectives were pretty good. They were solid. We got some new information. We have a phone survey that we're now using. And so with that phone survey, we were able to get some updated information as far as what those performance, how our drivers or how our staff are doing. I in the report, I kind of laid out the questions that we are asking in this this format, or what format and questions we're asking. And out of the 17 survey questions, we were able to get completed during the quarter. We had a slow start. So January, we didn't have any. February, we had a few. In March, we finally got the ball rolling, got the system going. 17 is a small number for a 3-month period. We're hoping to actually communicate with between 40 and 50 of our riders or their caregivers per month. But overall, those results came back for those 17 surveys were really positive. We're really pleased with the information that we're getting. As far as our service, the performance objectives, I'll go back to that. Safe driving practices, we actually did really well on that. Out of looking at a percentage of number of drivers that we had to reprimand or bring in and deal, to speak to or initiate a disciplinary action. In the months of January, February, and March, we hit 100%, which means there were no drivers brought in during any of those 30-month day periods. Passenger ride time has decreased. So right now, in the month of January, the percentage of passengers that were riding for less to 60 minutes or less, 60 minutes is now our new objective. In January, we were at 90.7 of our passengers were hitting that mark. February was the same. It was 90.7. March went up almost an entire percentage point. We're at 91.4. We're optimistic that April is going to be even better. We're really working towards limiting or reducing that ride time to 60 minutes or less for new passengers. By design, we're doing that, and for current passengers, we're still working on getting those reduced. Vehicle availability, again, this is a survey, not a survey, but I'm sorry, a performance objective. 97% of our vehicles were available for service during the month of January. February was 96.7, and in March it was 98.4%. The period of time that we're looking at is that no one vehicle is out for more than 24 hours. So within that 30-day period, all of our vehicles were within that 24-hour area of availability. Service cancellation. So I know service cancellation was a big issue that we ran into. Again, we were having staffing shortages. We made some really big strides in this October and November to bring some new staffing or to get restaffed. I think we interviewed five new applicants. Of the 5, we made 4 offers. Of the 4, 2 showed up, or 1 showed up for orientation. One showed up and actually reported to work, showed up for orientation and reported and was here a week and then decided to leave. And the other never showed up for orientation. So we hit it really hard, had a bad streak there. So January was really, we were only at 27%. Our goal is to be at 75%. That's our target rate of having service available for our passengers. We were at 27% in January. We suffered a lot of cancellations in January. February was the same. Finally, in March, during the months of January, February, we got some personnel hired, got them trained and ready to go in March. That number jumped up to 73%. So the cancellations dropped significantly. We were able to get 4 new people hired, got them on routes. Since then, since March 20th, from March 20th to April 17th, so we almost went an entire month without a cancellation. On April 17th, we had to cancel a half of a route, an evening route, and it affected a total of 4 people. Then on April 28th, we canceled another route that affected a total of 3. Since then, we haven't had any more cancellations. So with the addition of the 4 new drivers, I think we've made a real big stride there. And we're hoping that's going to continue on. I'm very sure it will. I'm very optimistic that retention will be high, and we'll be able to fill the remaining positions that we have available, which I'll get to in the next slide. Their new tracking and surveillance for vehicles is in the final stages. So we had originally received a bid from a couple of agencies regarding the replacement of all our vehicle cameras and tracking systems, and we've been looking into this for the last 6 months. Most of those came in over $200,000 or more. There was a total of 3 that we had. One that came in around $65,000 didn't clarify exactly what we were getting. So we were getting hardware but no software. Finally, the current vendor that we're with has a new option for us. They'll be able to provide us with a new DVR, new cameras. We'll stay on the same platform, but the new system will have the facial recognition and some of the other new detailed things that we really wanted to see. The facial recognition, if you're not aware of it, will actually send us a warning if someone yawns or they're not focused forward for an extended period of time, or if they kind of deviate from the road a little bit and they're looking away. It'll send warnings. It'll also notify the driver. It also is able to recognize driver fatigue, which is a big problem currently in transportation. So we're real optimistic. We're really looking forward to this new system. We're in the final stages of it. We had an issue. They forwarded a hard drive for us to test out. We mounted the system, put in the new cameras. We were ready to roll with it. And the hard drive, they'd sent us the wrong hard drive. So we had to send it back, and we're getting that expedited to us here, hopefully within the next week with the proper updates. And then we'll be able to, again, test the system to make sure it's exactly what we want. The price for this upgrade is way under where we thought it was going to cost us. So we're looking at somewhere right around $60,000 to change out the entire fleet. So it's a really cost-effective option for us. Again, I mentioned here, got hired 4 new drivers during the first quarter of 2023. They were significant in helping us get out of the rut that we were in regarding route cancellations. One great thing that I love to report on, and we went an extensive period of time last year. So far, there are no accidents reported during this first quarter. And we are currently 17 days into May, and we are still accident free. No incidents. Actually, I'm sorry. There were no incidents.
Yeah.
We did. We had a small fender bender, one of our dispatchers, a fire truck actually swiped her bumper. And we exchanged a little bit of paint with them, but it was nothing significant. But it is technically an accident. All the same protocols are followed, police report, video, the whole 9 yards. But it was just a small exchange of paint. The thing that's positive about it is that it wasn't our fault. The driver was at an intersection waiting for the light to change, and for whatever reason, this fireman decided he needed to get to Price Chopper a little bit quicker, and he tried to maneuver between some stationary cars. But in the last quarter of March, the last quarter of 2023, we were clear. As far as our staff, we continue to meet monthly with Tammy Ogren. We're trying to work towards becoming a higher performing team. And I think what I've been able to observe in the last few months is that staff are starting to open up and are becoming more receptive to the concept. Early on, it was just kind of, oh God, here's another meeting we have to attend. Let's hurry up and get it over with. And now there's a lot more interaction. People are getting involved and actually, are being more receptive. We do have our setbacks from time to time, but our performance team, our influencers team, we meet on a monthly, we meet monthly as well. And there's been a lot of honest, open dialogue there. And we're now holding each other more accountable for what we're responsible for and what's expected of us, and we have expectations about what we want from one another. So I think it's progressing forward very nicely. It's a work in progress, but I think it's working, and we're going to have a positive outcome from it. Overall, staff are in high spirits. Summer's here. The NFL draft was here. They're looking past the Royals, unfortunately, but they're looking forward to mini camps. And so there's a lot of talk about football and the additions of the Chiefs. So the staff are in high spirits. We currently have three job openings that we need to fill. We have two spare driver positions that we want to get filled. We've had a couple of applicants, but they unfortunately, so far, one did not have a CDL and the other just got their CDL, but it really has no driving experience whatsoever. We're still searching, and we're searching for an automotive technician. We'd like to get that position filled as soon as possible to give some relief to our staff back there in maintenance. And overall, they're doing an awesome, solid job as well. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Do you have any questions for me?
Roger, this is Tammy. I was interested in the information about the medical certifications. Is that part of the CDL or is that part of our insurance? Does everybody have to do a sleep study?
So the medical certification is, the state of Missouri does not, so there are agencies that don't require medical certifications. We do it as a company policy. We've kept that policy because it's really brought to it's enlightened us as far as some of our staffing and some of our staff and the medical limitations or medical issues that they had that we weren't aware of previously. For instance, we had a driver that we hired. He was part of the group in last year that we hired who was not able to stay with us because he was not able to obtain his medical certification. And it was because of his A1C was elevated. And so we couldn't put him on a route until that was under control. He eventually got that under control and came back, and he's now on staff and driving. The sleep study seems to be a real popular issue. It for whatever reason, people are getting their medical certs or going to trying to obtain one, and that seems to be the number one request by doctors is for them to have a sleep study. It's a general, they do a general observation, I guess, based on your weight and age, and there's a couple other factors in there. They'll determine whether or not you need to get a sleep study done. Unfortunately, those we have some drivers, or I've had applicants come in who have had the sleep study done and they have the CPAP machine, but they're just not using it. So when they go up to obtain or try to acquire a medical certification, they don't have the time in on the machine, and so they get rejected. But we require it as a company policy. We've always done it, and it's something I think we should continue to do. But there are school bus companies and there are other agencies that don't require it any longer. And it's because they operate within a certain area. They're not crossing state lines.
Well, I certainly think it's helpful for our safety, but I was surprised that would be required. Interesting. All right, well, thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, I think we have Brooke on the screen that has joined us as well. Brooke, can you hear us?
Hi, yeah, I can a little bit.
Okay, we'll try to talk louder. So I invited Miss Carly Kick, who's here present with us, and she supports Xander, who's the cute little picture little guy on the screen, and Brooke to share some of their success stories and also some of their experience here in the culture of ETOS. I figured it was best coming from the people experiencing it versus me reading a slide to you.
Okay, so I've been here with ETOS for just over a year, and Xander is one of the kids that I support. He receives case management only, which means that I don't get as much face-to-face time with him. So it had been close to a year before I actually met him in person. And so I just mostly spoke with his mom over the phone. But they have put in a request for Love Fund services, which is through Fox 4. He uses sensory items to chew on because otherwise he would chew on his clothes, it's just a safety hazard thing. So I got to go pick that up and bring it to Xander, and he has had some trouble with communication. He just turned 5, and he really does not speak a whole lot. He uses an iPad for communication. But I get there and he waves to me and he said, Xander. And his mom just burst out into tears. And she said, I have never seen him do that. This is just like such a huge step for him. And that was really a special moment that I had to share. And it just brought a lot of hope to her for his future. Yeah, it was really special.
Yeah, she told that story at the LSC meeting and we all had really bad allergies.
No, me too. I was like, yeah, it was really quite a gift. Yeah.
And Brooke is also a new SC, and she shared a story at the LSC meeting as well. So I asked her to come share her experience. She's on team 2.
Hi. Yeah, so Shannon did a good job of introducing me, but I'm Brooke. I'm on team 2. I've been here, actually, today is my 30 days. So my month. I was not new to the field. I actually came from the mental health side of things, that side of the world. And I worked for 2 previous companies in the mental health side of things. I had pretty much given up on social work. It was getting pretty difficult. The compassion fatigue was real, the burnout was real, and the workplace culture was really poor. A friend recommended ETOS to me, and I was like, all right, this is my last shot. It's a change of scenery. It's on a different side of things. Let's try this out. And when I got here, I was shocked. It was a culture shock, to say the least. People were talking to me. People were interested in knowing where I came from and what I was about. People actually wanted to help me and didn't roll their eyes at me when I had questions or I didn't know things. And that was crazy to me. I had to unlearn a lot of, I would say, toxic workplace behavior that I picked up in my last couple of jobs. Like here at ETOS, nobody really closes their door. They're always available to you, and nobody makes you feel silly for asking questions if you don't know something. I was always a loner, like I'll figure it out myself, but coming here, I've been more comfortable in vocalizing my opinions, vocalizing how things, how I can do things and what can I do and what are my limitations. And it's just been a really safe space for me to express my strengths, but also my weaknesses. And it's been a safe place to grow. And having to unlearn what I learned in my previous jobs, where I thought that was it forever, was really difficult. And it still is difficult. Sometimes people will talk to me and I'll be like, why are you talking to me? Like, I don't know what to say. I'm not used to small talk. So it's just been really awesome to have such a supportive staff who really understand that SCs are like case managers are the face of the company. We're the ones that are on the ground and we're talking to the clients. And if we're not being treated right or treated well, we're not going to leave a good impression with our clientele. So it's just awesome that ETOS gets that. And I just wanted to share that at the SC meeting and just, commend you guys, because I kind of thought that I was going to live my life hating work. And now I actually love my job. I know that sounds cheesy, but I do like my job. And I like to get up every day and go to the office. Like they were like, oh yeah, you can work from home sometimes. And I'm like, nope. I want to be in the office as much as I can because it's just such a good environment to be in. So that was just kind of my side of the coin, my story.
Thank you for sharing.
Thanks, Brooke.
And welcome aboard, yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we feel lucky to have both of these ladies working for us.
Thank you. George gave you all the thumbs up.
Yes.
And Jillian did say something, I missed it, but that's great to hear. Yes, thank you both so much for coming and sharing, versus me being boring and reading it on this slide. So you guys got the packet for TCM, and a couple of the highlights, we've been still busy the past quarter hiring. Lucky enough to have 8 new, I believe I just looked at the last quarter, fourth quarter, so we had 17 in the past 6 months of new staff. So busy, which is excellent. However, it keeps us quite busy. So a couple of the highlights, the average number of people we've served is 1,709. We now have full teams. We have a full team of SC supervisors, and we have 8 total supervisors now. We're not temporarily covering any of the teams, and we have some great leadership in this SC supervisor group. Fantastic, strong dynamic. I'm really excited. Amanda probably gets tired of me saying that. We did, with a couple of the new CSR changes through the state, we had kind of a couple of adjustments that we made through our structure, that I believe, if you guys recall, we were upfront with that in January. So a lot of ours, and we gained 3 new positions to the TCM department for the transition assessment transition coordinators. And we actually have the SC supervisor in transition and assessment transition coordinator supervisor, Jillian. I reduced that down to tax. We're gonna start, I can't say it that many times. So we gained 3 new positions here in the TCM department, as well as bringing them in under Jillian's supervision. And as Brooke mentioned, I cannot recall exactly, but we are actually recruiting and people are being referred to our SC department, and we're hiring people that are referred from their internal people. I don't know how much that happened in the past. I don't know if it happened at all. But we have 3 and people come during these interviews and they're like, oh, so-and-so says how wonderful it is.
They're amazing too, right?
Yeah. So knowing that we're hiring and people internally are that happy that they're referring people is amazing.
Can I say Carly brought her roommate?
Yeah. Yeah, Carly's one of them. Brooke was referred. There's several. So, and then another change that occurred through some of the changes DMH made was you heard the sigh. I'm sorry. We successfully completed training for this new statewide assessment called the HRST.
Health risk screening tool.
There you go. And by the end of April, we had kindly encouraged and shoved 65 plus staff through this training. And it's an 11-hour training that they're doing on top of their jobs. So with the support of a tremendous amount of people, we successfully got all of the individuals through it. New staff, new SCs, but that was a big undertaking that occurred on top of their day in and day out jobs. So I'm not going to say it's fun, but it was, everyone did it exceptionally well and stayed as positive as we could. No, I really shrunk it down.
What will the techs be doing?
Would you like to, sorry. So would you like to speak on that, or I can?
So they're essentially still doing kind of the same thing, but now they're more incorporated in the SC side of things. So we have 2 who are within that job description that do our COD. They accept every transfer that we get from the community outreach department. So they are the first face these people see. They write the plan, they get established if they need services before it's handed over to an SC. Because of the amount of turnover we've had, that was really a big gap. And people weren't getting services in a timely manner, or getting a plan done. So this has really changed that. And it's definitely work in progress. They weren't doing that job for a long time. They were originally the assessment coordinators. So they're relearning that position, and we're doing that together. And then they still conduct all of the assessments that have to be done or scheduling them and doing all the follow-up, and that's still pretty messy, and of course, all the CSR changes also. So their job has tremendously changed. And then me becoming their supervisor was a big change. And then we also just hired our new transition coordinator, who just started this week, who will take back, taking in and out transfers from the counties. And one of our assessment coordinators is teaching her that position. That'll take a lot of VSCs.
Yes.
It already has, and then yes, once actually we have 3 people in those positions instead of 2, I think it makes a really big impact on having so many USCs that it was complicated.
And that was
That they're not new FTEs, they were already.
Yeah.
They were here, we just put them in the premium department.
the positions, I think. I'm gonna go backwards, like last 6 months, we had a specific staff reach out and she was piloting, taking all of the COD plans for us. She was out on team 1. So we were testing this theory before having our assessment coordinators start actually putting a plan and process in place. So we tested it out, it worked very well. And then when we figured out what we could do with them on top of the assessments, that's exactly, it was positive, so why not? And it was a huge impact.
Yeah, it was, when I asked the SC supervisors what their number one concern was about services people were receiving, it's the folks coming over from community outreach, because and having to juggle that with all of the other requirements that people had to do, and it was just really hard. So it was a really just a great opportunity to
Good job.
yeah, really love it. And we want people to good transition. Yeah.
And it supplies, the variation when somebody needs a change.
Right.
It was, it all lined up really well. Really good. It's good. Any questions?
No,
Thank you, Brooke.
Just thank you for coming, working late, coming in late. All right. Lindsay.
All right. So, for training this last quarter, we had an amazing experience. And this is the photo here, and you're gonna have to forgive me. I completely forgot this gentleman's name, but the gentleman in that picture, and the lady in the picture, that's his wife. The gentleman in that picture attended one of our CPR and first aid classes at the beginning of this year, and that class was actually being taught by our very own Claudette Price. And so he has been working in the field for a very long time. He has to have CPR and first aid certification to be a direct support staff. So he saved his wife's life utilizing the CPR and first aid techniques that he was taught by Claudette. She had a heart attack at home, and her heart actually stopped. And the doctor attributed the fact that she is living today to the fact that he had CPR training and knew what to do. And so this is an amazing story. It was on the news. If you're curious to read the news story or to see the video, I threw the link in there so you could write it down. That's the first time I'd heard of our training of impacting somebody in that nature. And so I really wanted to share that in case you hadn't seen that on the news, that CPR first aid, of course, we know saves lives, but the fact that we were the one that provided that training to him so he could save his wife's life.
Very good.
So that's the biggest impact I think we've had this last quarter. From our providers and community, we've always had a lot of very positive comments from the provider and community members who participate in our trainings. And a couple of these statements here are from providers and families that may not have always had positive experiences with either training in general, not our training, but just in general. And so I wanted to share those. The thank you for good work, which you do for our families. Thank you for making them available. We're very grateful for it. Having our trainings being offered for free for Jackson County residents has been very helpful for those people who are taking advantage of that. So at ETAS, we always get feedback from new support coordinators at the end within their first 90 days or 45 days about what are some things you would want people, what are some good things about your training experience? What are some things we could work on? And I wanted to share some of the newest things we've heard. And some of this has come from the group of SCs, of those 17 that started this last quarter. Best training experience I've ever had, never felt more supported. This is the most supportive culture I've ever worked in. Welcome and supported. It's very nice. Brooke's story about feeling supported as a whole is one that we are consistently hearing from every SC that has walked in the door within the last 6 months. Honestly, in all of our trainings, the things that could be worked on have nothing to do with support and relationships. It all has to do with the pieces of paper we give them, so for tools, and that's easy to fix. So I am very proud of the support that the field trainers are providing for the new SCs. I'm very, very blessed to be able to work with them. One thing I do want to say is how the field trainers have impacted the SCs is that they have supported, you can go ahead. Sorry, I think it's on the next slide. Yeah. I will go back to that. So because we continue to have an increase in numbers of providers wanting free training, we want to continue to offer it. But we're seeing an increase in people enrolling, but a decrease in the number of people who are actually attending. We had only had a 75% attendance rate this last quarter. So beginning with June 1st trainings, there's going to be a no-show fee of $25 per individual that is going to be billed to the agency or whoever registered the person, with the expectation that if they reach an outstanding balance of $100, that has to be paid prior to them being able to re-register somebody, because it's very expensive, obviously, to have our contracted instructors providing training for 3 people. So we're hoping that this will encourage providers to send their staff, or at least replace the staff that's not able to be there. So we're not 2 people at a time and spending $800 on the training or whatever it is. The field trainers supported a total of 30 individuals, support coordinators in the first quarter. That's over half the department. It's the most ever that they've ever supported in a quarter, 17 of them being brand spanking new within the first 90 days. Past that are 90 days and over. And of the remaining individuals, only 3 of them, I think, were over a year. So everybody who they had supported had been here a year or less this last quarter. They put in a lot of work, and I'm very proud of that. We keep using Paycom for our annual e-learning refreshers and some new staff e-learnings, and it really has been very helpful in making sure that things get done on time. Learned that one of our e-learnings did not have the automatic reminder set up, and in the report that I sent, you'll see that that's one of the reasons why one of our goals for our objectives for first quarter was not met, because SCs did not get that automatic reminder. So that's going to be fixed, so it does not happen again. It really does help SCs. We are currently working with training and agency relations. I didn't put it in there, and TCM on developing a training for new SCs on employment services and community-based employment. It's a 2-part training that will have one section of it talking about how to have the hard conversation of working is beneficial, and you can get a job. We can talk about these things, how to have those hard conversations. And then the other one is the nitty-gritty DMH codes and such. But I'm very excited about the how to have conversations training. Hopefully we'll be having that up and running within the next month or so to start that and really encourage our SCs to start encouraging community employment a little bit more. Excuse me. Sorry, my daughter walked down here, excuse me. Okay, I think that's all. Is that my last slide, Amanda?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
any questions for
Do you have
Lindy?
any questions? Yeah,
Sounds good, Lindy.
wonderful. If you do, let me know. Thank you.
Thanks. And I just wanted to kind of wrap up. Usually it's 7:30 by now and we're ready to leave. I know we're ready to leave now too. But I hope that this was a more engaging opportunity to learn about what's really happening.
Was excellent.
So yeah, they did a great job. And I love the operation. I love everyone at ETOS, but especially the people. So I wanted to just do a bit of a summary and tell you what they didn't tell you. And even the support coordinators who are here may not realize everything, but being involved at the state level with our MAC-DDS group, which is our county association, and being involved in a lot of conversations with them and statewide providers, the division, developmental disabilities with the Department of Mental Health, has implemented more change at once for support coordination than ever before. And it's change for support coordination, but even more importantly, it's changes for the people and the families. So in order to access services or get a new waiver, there's more steps to go through. And right now, you can't even get through the hoops because it's chaos. The state doesn't have enough people doing the job. And it's a part of that new CFR. So it's a rule, right? Code of state regulations. It's a big deal. So they are doing the best they can to get that figured out. So that's one of them. Then Shannon mentioned, we accomplished getting all of our support coordinators and supervisors and training staff and probably people I'm forgetting through that health risk screening tool training. So that was a required training. And MAC-DDS was asked, well, MAC-DDS is going to tell the division how much that costs. So for ETOS, so when we think about the billing time that was lost for 10 to 11 hours of training, plus just paying people for that 11 hours, we're talking about $70,000. And that's just the real billable positions. I didn't include the supervisors and that kind of thing. So that's a really big ask. And then it's also requiring another step for families to go through to continue their services. And if it were the only new thing and we had more information about it and get really excited about the benefits of it, it's a health thing. So some of you will get to go through it if you have a waiver. Coming to you. And it's very in-depth health information. So the intent is to help save lives, to really help identify health risks. And at first it was required to keep your waiver, so you guys were going to have to do it. Now there's a way to opt out if you don't want to. But it's really interesting. How these things are happening, and it was written into the state's plan for the waivers they have. So they told the federal government, hey, we're going to do this, and then said, hey, guess what? You get to do it. So
when's that to be implemented?
it started May 1.
We just went through very confident. And it's like you're, especially if you're in child, a lot of medication.
A lot of medication.
And a lot of doctors involved.
Yeah.
Oh, it's.
Did you find it beneficial? If you
Yeah,
want to
I
say,
will tell you this, we don't use ETOS because we had the conflict with the training.
oh, right, yeah.
We use CHS. I would say our support coordinator knows better now, but anyway, it's over there. I just, I thought it was good.
Good, okay.
Yeah, but it was took about an hour, maybe a little, maybe 2 minutes longer.
So that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's
a lot of time.
We hope it has that kind of an impact. That's
Yeah.
wonderful to hear, because we're not always hearing the good stories.
Yeah.
Got it. That's great. So everybody who receives residential services will do theirs as well, but in our end does this. Then the third thing that is creating chaos is that connection, which is this big, huge case management system for us, is going to require in-person training for probably about 80 people at ETOS. So when you do the math there, again, a lot of money for, we're just not sure, 8 hours of training in person. And then each new staff is going to have to go through that too. So, and that's been delayed. It was supposed to start in May. It's delayed to October. We don't know. Yeah, we had an indication that maybe 2024 more realistic. So, connection case management system, which should make life so much better. It really should, right? It's going to integrate the HERS, that all just part of that, help for screening. But it's really hard right now. A lot of unbillable hours, and it's a lot of stuff that's been really frustrating in the rollout. So it's hard to see the benefit when you're that support coordinator on the front line. Oh, and we've had a bunch of support coordination turnover. And we are just desperately trying to keep as many as we can. So just wanted you to know that there are good stories. I love hearing them, and we're trying to like put up this little umbrella and like shield the folks from all of what's going on. So there's some frustration across the state. I just wanted to, because we're lucky that the connection training is in Kansas City, because it's Kansas City, St. Louis, and Jeff City. That's it. And then everybody else will have to drive to it.
No.
Stay overnight. Yeah, it's just gonna be a mess.
Who required this 11-hour training? Everybody just had to go.
The Division of Developmental Disabilities.
And it was not available back to every day, and we just need it.
And Stu, if I can say that in the past, there was a lot of partnership between the division and the counties. There's been a lot of turnover in leadership at the division. And there's sort of this, well, I'll let you speak to that, the impression of, we don't need to hear what the counties have to say. They'll do what we tell them to do.
They're providers. This is the rule.
And so a lot of the things that they're stumbling over right now, we tried to warn them about because we've been in the field longer than they have. And that sense of partnership is going away. We're trying really, really hard to revive it. But at the MAPTDS level, we're talking legal action at this point.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not, I mean, yeah.
You know, we're really worried about people having a delay in getting services with that new assessment, and they don't let support coordinators do the assessment. There's state staff that have
The
to
MOS,
do it.
not
The MOS.
yeah.
Eligibility assessment.
Yeah, not the HERS, sorry.
There's
The eligibility.
one that changed as well.
So, so that's, yeah. That's what a day in the life of being a support coordination supervisor is, and then a support coordinator. And just other things that are exciting, I think treatment services, you know, when we did our strategic plan, that really came up to be a big area for focus. I just see so much opportunity for ETOS to innovate and do more, and well, we all do, not just me. Really better meet with Jefferson County So really excited about possibilities there. Robert's already started thinking about what we can do and how we can do it. And then, we've community outreach and our TCM department are really getting out in the community doing good things. So in the midst of all this training that's coming down and all that, our bilingual support coordination team, we have 4 now, and Stephen is their supervisor, and he's gonna start working with Melinda and Anita and community outreach and really digging into that Hispanic community in Jackson County to see what we can do to provide good services there. So that's just one of the little projects that it's very exciting.
There's been a lot on the news recently about changes in Medicaid.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
know what those are? Cause they never really said
Well,
what the changes.
Now everyone that's on Medicaid, there's a year, 12 months, maybe 14. I can't remember if they were giving them 14, where Medicaid's gonna reevaluate and make sure you're eligible. Because during the pandemic, they didn't do that. So it could have some negative. We are Medicaid-based service for case management. That Jennifer Seidel will be very busy. Okay.
Where are we at on that?
9 positions.
Right openings for us.
So,
Did we do the referral notice?
We talk about making it higher. But we haven't get there yet, but yeah. we do.
Now, in St. Louis, CHS is hiring support coordinators to start at a much higher rate. That's in an area where it's even more competitive than it is here. And they are doing sign-on bonuses as well. So it could be something that we could look at and consider, but we've got so many other really expensive things going on that haven't really.
And our position's it's not posted right now. Taking a break, letting folks settle in.
Training mentors, everybody, field trainers, there's not enough, people right now. After 17 individuals, we need to stabilize. Yeah. Take a breath and then. Here.
Thank you, everyone. Does anybody have any new business? Old business?
who was the purchaser of the Grandview property? Which one of the 3?
The one that wanted to use it for their own, it's the, oh my gosh, what was their last name? The brother, Brancato Brothers? For the
Thompson?
dry cleanings.
It's Pride Cleaners. I think
Yeah.
is the-
Oh, right.
Well, we knew it would go fast once we listed it, but yeah, it's great.
I am too. You know, split up here.
All right, any public comment, especially from online?
I have public comment. So there was something, since we were going over all this and it wasn't included in everything else that just happened last night. We had a community outreach event where Jennifer Seidel and Monique Robertson attended in Eastern Jackson County. It was the Eastern Jackson County Transition Fair.
Fort Osage.
Yeah, right. Fort Osage High School was where it was at, which is much further than I thought it was. And anyways, we were at this event. It was a very, very good event. I got there a little bit after Jennifer and Juanita. And when I came in, what happened right as I was coming in was a woman walked in who had a kid and that needed services, and she did not speak very good English at all. And she came in, she tried talking to somebody, it was not going well, and she looked across the room and she saw Juanita Robertson, our community outreach specialist, standing there and beelined over there and started talking to her in Spanish. And then Juanita and this woman, Juanita basically took her around to all of the booths and translated for her and worked and helped her. And it was very effective because Jennifer Seidel was still there, so our table was not unattended. I came over and was answering questions about services. I got really good pictures of Jennifer answering people's questions, and then Jennifer actually went and did a presentation in a separate breakout session. But if we had not had somebody there, there was not another person there to translate. And having Juanita just standing in the room, being there, and being able to do Spanish language translation was a huge, immense help for this one woman who just happened to be at the event.
And where's Chris?
And it was very clearly, you know, Juanita was there, she was very clearly with us, and people did take notice of it, that we had somebody there who was on site and could do something like that at a moment's notice. So it was really cool to be there when that happened.
Thank you.
Thanks, Juanita. Yeah, yep.
All right, anybody else? Any other comment? Lauren?
Yeah, I just want to come on. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just wanted to come on and let you all know that during that challenging time that Roger was talking about with the transportation staffing issues, and which we've all felt, I just want you to know that the van that would have originally got retired and sent out to auction is now helping to service 16 individuals in the community on 5 days a week. So you all donated that van to us, and we're using that daily to take 16 individuals out who are just having a great time. And now the participation in our Associates on the Move team has just accelerated with interest. So we thank you for that very much. And hopefully we can keep the door open for conversations in the future, because we're kind of capped out with that one van already. And then I just look forward to the tour for all of you who want to participate in that on June 15th to Southeast Enterprises. You're welcome to come in, and I look forward to meeting you all, and for you all to meet the wonderful coworkers that I have the privilege of working with.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
And Kelly Logan sent a message. Thank you for your support. Appreciate that. All right, anybody have anything else? You're all good? For motion to adjourn?
I'll second that. Very good.
All in favor to adjourn, say aye. All right, everybody. Have a very good evening.
Thank you.